Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next up, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. If there aren't any corrections or changes, we have a motion. Motion by Commissioner McGill, support by Commissioner Hoffman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next up, we'll move up to our first public comment. If there's anyone from the public who would like to address the Legislative Affairs Government Operations Committee, please make your way to the head of the table, state your name and community in which you resided.
None.
Seeing that there is no one from the public, I will now close our first public comments.
Mrs. Longo?
For a comment, I came for the food.
Next up, we'll move on to our regular agenda. The first item is the committee assignments. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Hoffman, support by Commissioner Jackson. I'll give commissioners a moment if you need to open it up. But it looks like with our finance committee, we have Commissioners Markham as the majority chairperson, Ajay Raman as the majority vice chair, and Commissioner Long as the minority vice chair, with members Commissioners Powell, Cavell, Smith Charles, Weipert, and Hoffman. Next up, we've got obviously our Legislative Affairs and Government Operations. All of us are here except for Commissioner Lutz and Commissioner Spiz. We'll jump on down to the Public Health and Safety Committee. We have Commissioner Penny Lubes as the chairperson, Commissioner Powell as the majority vice, and Commissioner Gingell as the minority vice, with members including Commissioner Gershenson, Joliet, McGilvery, Nelson, Cavell, and Joliet. And the fourth meeting is the Economic Development Infrastructure Committee. Commissioner Smith Charles is the majority chair, followed by Brendan Johnson as our majority vice chair, followed by Commissioner Weipert as the minority vice chairperson, and members include Commissioners Markham, Miller, Raman, Long, and Commissioner Spiz. Commissioners, any questions, comments, concerns in regards to the standing committees assignments? Seeing none, please prompt the vote on the committee assignments for the 2023-2024 term. Sounds weird saying 2023-2024.
You need
Really
a motion
does.
first, or? do
Oh, we
have-
already got it?
Yeah, I did that.
Okay,
Already got it.
guess I was napping then. I
That's okay. I'll let you.
We'll keep you awake in this meeting, I promise.
It's his birthday.
Madam Chair, you have 6 yeas, 0 nays.
6 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries. Next up, we'll move on to the next item, which is item B, various boards, commissions, and authorities. I know there was some updating to this document, so commissioners, I do challenge you to take a look at it, make sure everyone is accounted for. Point of clarification, are the airport committee and the other committees outside of the commission and the committee meetings that are shown on here?
Yeah,
Is
the
that a part of
airport
this
committee is
document?
a chairperson appointment. It
I see.
doesn't come through Lago.
Okay.
And so, yeah, some of them are chairperson appointments that you may have discussed in caucus.
Okay, maybe like the Human Trafficking Task Force, the Healthy Aging Task Force, that'll all come separately.
It'll come through, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so commissioners, it looks like the boards that we have in front of us are, we have Commissioner Cavell is on the area agency for a 2-year term ending 12/31/24. We have the Coordinated Zoning Committee, it's a 2-year term as well. Term ends on 12/31/24. We've got Commissioners Markham, Smith Charles, and Commissioner Weipert. On the Parks and Recreation Commission, 3-year term ending on 12/31/25. We have our Commissioner McGilvery, who is the chairperson of the Parks and Rec Commission, alongside Christine Long. Commissioners Smith Charles is also on the Parks and Recreation Commission. The reason why she is not listed under here is because her term has not yet expired. It will expire next year. The next item and the last item is the Southeast Michigan Council of Government, SEMCOG. It's a 2-year term ending on 12/31/24. The following names are delegates. We've got Executive Coulter, Commissioners Markham, Jackson, Miller, Woodward, and Weipert. And alternates include W.B. Carlson, Cavell, Gershenson, McGilvery, Powell, and Joliet. Commissioners, any questions, comments in regards to this item? Seeing none, please prompt the vote on the appointment of Mayor's,
We don't have a motion yet on that one.
I move it.
I apologize.
No, Gary, moves
Motion
it.
by Commissioner McGilvery, support by Commissioner Hoffman.
Sorry about that. That's okay. We need to discuss it first.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts, concerns? Seeing none? All right, please prompt the vote on the various appointments. Thank you, Pam. I don't know why I did that yet.
Madam Chair, you have 6 yeas, 0 nays.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Next up, we've got our last item of the agenda. Boy, trying to maneuver around these different screens. Item C, which is the permanent rules for the Board of Commissioners. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner McGilvery, support by Commissioner Jackson. Commissioners, questions, comments? I know there was a lot of fruitful discussions that took place in, I think, both caucuses prior to the board meeting starting. So any questions, comments in regards to the permanent rules for the Board of Commissioners? I do want to share one of the things that was mentioned during caucus meeting for the majority was that a study group to modify, change, add rules will be put in place, I believe, at this board meeting. Is that what we heard?
It wasn't part of the motion, but it was in like the spirit of the motion that it would be effective immediately with a due date of February 15th.
Due date of February 15th, that recommendation should be brought forward, and this is the committee in which those recommendations will be brought forward. Questions, comments, concerns? Commissioner
Point of
Jackson.
clarification, recommendations as far as membership? Because we
So
did talk
from my
about
understanding,
membership.
it's the recommendations of the committee to come forward with the proposals of the changes to the board rules
By
by
February
February
the
15th, 2023.
I have a question.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Hoffman.
So the suggestion is set up an ad hoc committee.
Is it ad hoc?
To review, or a committee, to
Yes.
review the rules of the Board of Commissioners.
Yes.
Is that how we've always done it? I thought it went through a committee
You know,
before.
Commissioner, that's a really great question. From my understanding, we've never historically done this in the midst of a term. It's usually been done prior to leading into the first board meeting of the following term. So this is a new venture.
So this committee will hold meetings, they'll come up with recommendations, and do they bring it back here then?
It is my understanding per our board rules, as you have the board rules on your agenda today.
Okay.
So any modifications or changes to the board rules, whether they take place on the boardroom floor or they take place in the said committee that I believe will be introduced, created tonight, that the recommendations will come to this committee for approval and then to the full board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Joliet.
I just want to say that I'm disappointed that the rules weren't before us to approve, as has been historical to start the term off. With that being said, I'm glad that there was a date set, so we do know when to expect them, February. So I
A
guess,
decision by February 15th.
Throw out props to Commissioner McGilvery, who threw out that prompt date. And I believe it's a
Thank
wise
you.
idea to have it done sooner than later, most definitely. So Commissioner McGilvery, I appreciate you bringing forward that prompt date. And majority members move forward with supporting that. So Commissioner Jackson.
Clarification,
Yes, ma'am.
a point again as far as membership, because we did discuss in committee whether it would be volunteer or committee of the whole. Are we going to define that right
Well,
now?
one of the things I would like to further learn about is have that group be the subcommittee of the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee. That was something that obviously was not given time to discuss, but I most definitely think that it is most appropriate, given that this committee is the liaison to the Board of Commissioners. It's not business that we don't already receive, so that is something that I would like to gain more clarification on, and having that be a subcommittee under the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee.
Do we know who the members of this committee will be?
That's what
we
we're
do
just
not.
talking about.
And that'll come from the chair.
Not sure yet.
I was going to say,
Commissioner.
I don't know if this is a point of clarification or inquiry, but
Is Chairman
is,
here? Can we
well,
get-
I mean, yeah, so I did not love the vague nature. It was a rushed motion that we did for the sake of time, but is there a process for like instigating from scratch a committee already set?
So I think
per-
that's a great question.
I genuinely don't know.
I just asked staff to see if we
Okay.
could bring chairman in. This was something that was just recently discussed this evening, so I can understand kind of the hesitancy of not really knowing the details. So hopefully, we can have Chairman Woodward join us and give us a little bit more. And I do want to capitalize and emphasize that I do think it is most appropriate that it becomes a subcommittee under the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee. It shouldn't be out of the ordinary or doing something different.
You want a motion that says that?
I don't know. Let's wait and hear how this is gonna be formed. First, I think, is gonna be
Oh, we can
best,
talk
right?
about it. Okay, we can do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Not to speak out of
Mr.
turn.
Johnson?
I mean, why don't we just do that?
Why don't we just make a motion? If it's supposed to report to Lago and we are the liaison, wouldn't we be the creators of?
I think the only thing I can say is, we've got a lot of senior members who have done these board rules year after year after year, and I would at least give them the opportunity to have some input on it.
Okay. I'm not sure I followed what you said, but let's definitely follow back. I wanna make sure I understand what you said. Thank you for joining us, Chairman Woodward. I'm gonna turn it over to Commissioner Johnson. He did ask some great questions, so I figure since this is so relatively new, have you give us a little insight. So
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Johnson.
As a matter of procedure, is there an existing procedure for instigating a committee from scratch, as we talked about in Majority Caucus with the Rules Review Committee?
Is there a process? So there's three types of committee things that we have formed. We form ad hoc committees, we form special committees, we form subcommittees. Those are really the three things. And they're actually spelled out in the board rules and how we can do that. And so the chair can pull that committee together, as we discussed in caucus, about forming together a rules committee, and we can move on that process and just do it based on what's already captured in the board rules.
And is, if on follow-up, is that a process that this committee instigates then? Or are we not to act on it?
We don't, I don't think decision was made to do it, so we're.
So, Chairman, one of the things that I mentioned, I don't mean to cut you off.
Please.
One of the things that I mentioned was the possibility of creating a subcommittee for the rules under LAGO. This is the governing body, the liaison to the Board of Commissioners. I do feel it is the most appropriate committee.
Well, that's not what was decided in caucus, so I'm going to proceed with caucus.
What was decided in caucus?
That we will form a committee to review the rules, to bring back recommendations, working with both caucuses by February 15th.
And that was the motion. And I thought it was with the understanding that it would be, people that wanted to serve on that.
Right, let's try to keep it less than 19.
Not the chairman's appointment, but somebody that wants to serve on the committee.
Yes, let's keep it it wasn't 19 people, though.
No,
Right,
How big is the committee going to be?
it can be, well, I think it's a little bit based on who wants to serve. So it's,
And,
so
Are you raising your
we will
hand?
put it together.
Or are you raising your hand to,
I-
Commissioner Hoffman followed by Commissioner Jackson?
And I talked to Spiz, and Spiz was, I thought, going to talk to your, I don't know if he talked to your leadership. So, he's not here, though. So we will form that, we will pull the people together. Let's start with a 4-2.
Okay.
4 Democrats, 2 Republicans.
So
And then if there's a fifth
four
person that wants to, so badly wants to participate, I think we can find accommodations.
4 Republicans, 2 Democrats.
Chairman, what type of committee?
thank you.
So it's obviously not standing, we've got subcommittees, special.
I think we could do a special committee, because why don't we do a special committee? Where the work can be done, and then can present, that recommendation to both caucuses. Unless people have I don't have a strong feeling one way or another. Is that?
I think that's fair.
I'm looking at the maker of the motion, so
Commissioner
if that's
Jackson.
okay with you, it's okay with me.
Well, just want to say what Chair Woodward has stated, a special committee, but then prior to that, we talked about a subcommittee to Lago. So that is not what we're going to do. It's because the three different committee structures are defined different ways. And so I guess we need to make
They
sure
do-
that we're
Right. So what,
clear on the definition.
Yeah, I guess like
of each
one of the difference of the committees, like sometimes we have empowered an ad hoc committee where the board has voted to give an ad hoc committee authorization to release funds that have been appropriated by the board. And we're not talking about money here. So we're talking about operational rules and stuff. So the study committee, because there is no action, I mean, there isn't, the study committee is not going to decide what it is. They're going to work together to come up with some recommendations. They're going to submit it to both caucuses, and then the board as a whole will have to vote on it. And
Okay,
then-
Chairman, question. Why wouldn't the recommendations come to this committee, given that we are the committee that is the liaison to the board? We get the board rules.
Once, okay, so, so.
So I'm
we
not
have a-
I'm not
We
understanding.
have a Democratic caucus and a Republican caucus. Want to make sure that those concerns like also met, that they're going to have representatives of those caucuses as part of this body once we have it. Once there is like, yep, this sounds good, then Lago would be the committee that would take direct action to take it up.
And then it would be
And then the board would vote.
referred to so Lago would make the recommendation, and then it
To the
would go
board.
to the full board.
Correct.
So it would come back.
It would come back to Lago. Yes, the whole
and that's-
Lago, yeah,
That's what I
just like you're doing now.
I
You're-
missed that
Yeah,
the
you're,
first
yes,
time you
it will come,
spoke.
it will come to Lago, just like these board rules are coming to Lago. Any amendment to the board rules will come to Lago before it goes to the full
Okay,
board.
it sounded like you said it was just gonna go to both caucuses and then the full board, so I'm
No.
glad I saw clarification.
Nope.
Commissioner Hoffman.
So what we're voting on right now is just to establish existing rules for the board.
That is correct.
Nothing is gonna change, this is what we do every year. So
Which are the
we'll
same
vote-
rules of
Right,
last term.
as last year, so we'll
Correct.
vote on that, and then this committee will be set up, it'll go to both caucuses, it'll come back to Lago.
Correct.
Then it'll be referred to the board, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm
Commissioner
on.
Jackson.
Okay, just thanking Commissioner Johnson for having this table of committee attributes. As you mentioned, if it was a special committee, the board chair creates the committee. If it's a subcommittee, as we talked about, that would be committee action of this committee. But we're going to be creating this as a special committee,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Okay, so then you would create it as the board chair. Thank you for having this
Yeah, of
document,
course.
Commissioner.
So Chairman, is it fair to say that it's to be concluded by February 15th, and the expectation of, would it be hitting the full board at the end of February? I mean, I'm asking
Well,
because I think it's
so that's,
important that this
that's
happens
possible.
sooner
I
than later.
mean, so if the working group says, guys, we need a couple more weeks, I mean, then they will inform us. I mean, that's up to them, that's up to the group. And then, I mean, let's assume that everything's good. I mean, the next available board meeting, there's no reason that whatever that week of committees, and then the following board meeting to adopt it. I mean, that would be I guess, like the soonest. But I think it's important to give like flexibility, to folks if they need more time. But, the goal is to get this done, the special committee gets its work done by February 15th at best as possible. And then we as a group, let the caucuses and the caucus leadership be able to talk to, and then that product move before it to Lago.
So potentially maybe looking at that March 2nd board meeting.
Yeah, because you're right, there's only the one,
Yes,
right.
there's only one.
One in February, that's why,
In February.
correct.
Commissioner McGilvery?
Nope.
Oh, no. All right, commissioners, any other questions for Chairman in regards to, what is this called? What's the?
We just call it a rules special committee.
Do I need to go back and make any different motions?
No, because right now, what you have on the table is the rules from last year to approve for the new permanent rules.
Nothing's changed, nothing's changed.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any further questions on this item, which is item B, permanent
5C.
rules of the Board of Commissioners? 5C. Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Okay.
Our rules are important.
Madam Chair, you have 6 yeas, 0 nays.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Commissioner Jackson. At this time, we'll move down to item number 6, which is our final public comment of this meeting. So at this time, if there's individuals who would like to come forward and speak during public comment, please make your way down to the head of the table, state your name and community which you reside in. Alrighty, once, twice, seeing none, public comment is now closed. Commissioners, if there isn't any further business, let's adjourn. 7:21.